Welcome to today's episode, and I was about to say third episode, but it really depends on when you downloaded what. We release 3 a week, and we release those 3 in one day. So for me, it's the third episode. Who knows what it is for you, but I will welcome you anyway. And as always, I thank Belay, belaysolutions.com, the productivity experts, the ones who provide you the download called The Power of Productivity. Just go to THOM 55123. That's 55123 THOM to get your download. We're so grateful to Belay. They are providing the funding for this ministry to be free to you. So make sure you give them your gratitude. Consider them for your next hire because they provide these virtual workers who are incredible, who are matched to your organization. Check them out at belaysolutions.com. We're so grateful for them. Now, here's a question. Should a pastor ask for prayer intercessors? Should a pastor ask for prayer intercessors? My answer, and I could end the podcast with this, my answer is yes. A pastor should ask for prayer intercessors. Then the next question that I would ask is this: do most pastors ask for prayer intercessors? The answer is no. Now let's be clear on what a prayer intercessor is. It is a man or woman or children who intentionally are praying for the pastor on a regular basis, oftentimes on a daily basis. These people are committed to pray for their pastor. I have an entire 30-day book on this and how a church can get into the mode of praying for their pastors. It's called When the People Pray, and we'll put that in the show notes. And I would encourage church members to pick up this book and hand it out to other church members, 30 days where you're praying for your pastor. But I'd also encourage pastors to get this book. Don't be ashamed to say, would you pray for me? The answer to the question is yes, you need prayer intercessors. What does that mean? You know what prayer is, don't you? Well, intercessor is just someone that is praying on behalf of your needs to God. So let's say that you're someone that is a cancer victim, and you ask people to pray for your healing. Well, you become a prayer intercessor for that person. Pastors have a lot of different needs. That's why we put it into this 30-day book called When the People Pray. They have a lot of needs. And when it's all said and done, you, the church member, if you're part of this podcast right now, you, the church member, can be the movement that starts. So the answer is yes. The answer to the question, do most church members or do most pastors ask church members? The answer is no. Now, why is that? Well, the why behind it is not complex. The why behind why pastors don't ask is because pastors perceive that they are to be the ministry providers. They're the ones that are supposed to serve the people instead of vice versa. And I get that. Most pastors have the servant mentality where they truly get it that they are to serve the people. They're called the under shepherd. They're to be the person that looks after the sheep. But that does not mean that it limits the church members where they cannot pray for their pastor. Many pastors do not ask for intercessory prayer because, one, they don't see it as their role, and number two, they feel like it's presumptuous to ask church members to do that for them. And it is absolutely neither. I've told the story on many occasions of Francis Mason, now with the Lord. When I asked for prayer in my church after a sermon one time, many people said they'd be praying for me. I did it at a low moment in my life and ministry. And within 2 days, Francis had come to me and just shocked me. She had one more than 100 people in the church praying for me every day at noon, wherever they were. Just take a few seconds, maybe a minute, maybe 30 seconds, and they prayed for me. And I was able to keep them updated on my prayer needs, and it became one of the most encouraging and vital parts of my ministry and life. It would not have happened if I did not get vulnerable in the pulpit, which is not always good. But in this case, if I did not get vulnerable in the pulpit and say, I need prayer. And they began praying for me. And God just began blessing my life and ministry. And I began to see incredible answers to prayer in my life and in the church as well. So the answer to the question is yes, you should. The second part is most pastors do not. The third part is provide some type of tool, whether it's my book Or back when I was a pastor, I would send them my prayer needs and they would pray over them. I'd send them once a week, once every 2 weeks, and that would give them a guide to pray for me. Give them the resources that they need. And here's just something else to encourage you pastors about this. When you ask a church member to pray for you, whether you're asking them collectively as a group or you're doing so individually, I cannot even think of one time, sure, there's some exception somewhere. I cannot think of one time where the church member was not honored to do so, was not glad that he or she was called on to pray for his or her pastor. Don't think that the reaction is going to be negative. Quite the contrary. In churches where I have worked with the pastors to encourage them to get prayer intercessors, the result has been overwhelmingly positive. You pastors may not ever have that level of intercession unless you ask for it. It may not be foremost on the minds of your church members. Their own needs may be. And so you need to ask for prayer. So that's my simple message. That's my nugget in this Church Answers podcast. That is the centrality of it. Get your church members praying for you. Don't be ashamed to ask, and see what kind of blessings God will bring to you and consequently to your congregation as well. As always, we thank Belay. Well, what an incredible sponsor. I got so many things I love to share in the course of a week, a month, or whatever. And I have different ways that I disseminate it. But one of my favorite ways is the Church Answers podcast. And we couldn't do this without Belay. Go to belaysolutions.com. They're the productivity experts, and they're going to find the right person for your church or your organization at the right time. Hey, pastors, leave this particular session determined that you won't be ashamed to ask someone to pray for you. All right. We'll see you in a future episode.